Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. It's Eric Brown from MOBO-Media. Hey, what I want to talk about now is kind of a continuation of a story I told in another video about my first trip to Africa. My first trip to Africa, the continent of Africa. I'll kind of go through and kind of explain how that happened, but let me just say that it was certainly something that really changed my whole perspective on the continent, the countries, the people, and even myself. So being in the Air Force, I was stationed in Abilene, Texas, man. And I was a part of a unit. It was about 28 people, I think, total in the unit. It was a pretty special unit because our job was to go out. If something was jumping off, we would go out ahead of time when it got word of it to start looking at places where we could land aircraft. And so they would send us out, send a team out with our group and then some security and everybody else in the middle of nowhere to try to figure out a place where we could land aircraft and set up base camps and things like that. And so I never forget, we were on one of our protocols was to be ready to go within 2 hours notice, no matter what we were doing. And it just so happens this Saturday night, I was in the club on base, having a good time, having some drinks, things like that. Next thing you know, a guy comes into the club from the unit and say, "Hey, Eric," or Airman Brown, Air Force rank back then. He said, "Hey, man, we got to go, man. We got to go. We got a mission." Like, okay. And when you hear something like that, you got to drop everything you're doing. You go home, you get your bag that you should have already had pre-packed, say goodbye to the family, throw some things in the bag and head out and get in uniform. So we met back at the squadron, and we got to the squadron. There was only like maybe 6 of us that went on this trip. I think 6 or 7 from my unit, but then you had like 8 other people from other units that supported us, to include security and things like that. And I never forget one of our big leaders, our big boss. He came and talked to us 6 or so that were there, and from my unit, and told us how proud he was of us, and told us that what we were getting ready to embark on was a very important mission. It was extremely important. He couldn't talk about it, and he just told us to take care of each other, and he looked forward to us getting back safely back home. Next thing you know, we're on an airplane. This is within 2 hours of me being notified at the club. Keep in mind, I'm still a little intoxicated, I wasn't drunk, nothing like that, but I was, I had a few in me, obviously, Saturday night, 12 o'clock at night, somebody coming telling you got to go. So we get on the airplane, big C5 airplane. C5 is, I think, the largest airplane in the Air Force inventory right now. This plane can carry helicopters. It can carry 6 buses. It's huge. It's massive. A C5 cargo airplane. We get on the C5, and keep in mind, it's only us 6 and then probably the other 8 from other units. And obviously you have the pilot and the crew from the plane and everything. So we hop on the plane. 2 hours into the flight, they tell us we are going to the continent of Africa. We are going to Africa. And about another hour after that, they came and told us we're going to Kenya, Africa. Mombasa, Kenya. So keep in mind, back then, we didn't have there wasn't cell phones, all that stuff wasn't out. And so when they told us that on the plane, obviously, it's not like we could text somebody or call somebody, "Hey, where we're going?" That was a no-no. And so we, that flight probably, man, it seemed like that flight was like a 20-hour flight, man. And we had to do a double air refueling. And what that means, double air refueling, is that, planes can't fly that far without refueling or getting gas. So when you're in the air like that, Air Force has a way with our planes of refueling while they're flying. So you get another I call them a gas plane, KC-135, or y'all that know the Air Force lingo know what I'm talking about. You're flying, this other plane comes up and toward the back of the plane, and literally, there's a thing that extends out to connect the planes, and they transfer fuel to the plane that needs the fuel. So we had to do this twice, man, over the ocean. And when we finally got to Africa, I'll never forget, we landed in Africa, Mombasa, Kenya. And the thing I will never forget is when the doors open to the plane, to the back of the plane, because you have to open the door to get ready to take the equipment out. and to prepare the plane for to download the cargo. And I never forget, we opened the door and what do we see? We see red carpet from the cargo door coming out all the way over into a safe location, off somewhere. And then on this red carpet, you had African military men lined up all the way, and they were, at attention, out of respect for the American military folks that got there. And so, we had to walk through this. So imagine me being 22, 23 years old, out of Fort Worth. I'm walking through, and I'm seeing these hardcore African, not African, Kenyan Air Force gentlemen lined up, man. It was just a proud thing for me because never had I ever imagined I see a military that was all black and they looked like me and they were professional and they were flying planes and they wore uniforms just like we did, you know what I'm saying? So we got to Africa, and I ended up staying in Africa for a total of 72 days. Keep in mind, when we went, we didn't know when we were going home. All we knew was we had a mission. We were there for, if any of y'all remember back in the 90s, Rwanda. There was a movie called Hotel Rwanda. If you look at that movie, Hotel Rwanda, that's the reason why we were in Rwanda, because they had genocide going on with the Rwandans. I think it was the Tutsis and the Hutus, two factions of other Rwandans. I think they were, one was killing off the other. Man, they call it ethnic cleansing. But later on, I found out there was a little more than that. It was not just genocide, and I won't get into that now. But it's disgusting when I found out really what was at the root of a lot of it, and America and Europeans' involvement in allowing it to happen. But funny story is that in Africa, obviously in the States, man, there's this privileged thing, white guys have where they feel like they're on top of the world, and you follow behind them. I'll be damned if I will, but that's the mindset. In Africa, it was flipped, man. It was flipped. Everything's black. You know what I'm saying? So the white guys that came with us were the minority. And let me tell you, they hung tough with me. They made sure they stayed next to me because they know I was the type of guy, I get along with anybody, man. And if I was going to be the difference between them being safe and unsafe, then they would rather be with me. You know what I'm saying? And they had nothing to fear, man. The Kenyans were very compassionate, loving people, kind, generous, helpful. But these white guys had never seen anything like this. So, for me, all I saw in their eyes was fear. Seeing these black guys that, in military uniforms, wearing them better than we wore ours. You know what I'm saying? Had guns just as big as ours. And it put the fear of God in them, to say the least. And so they had nothing to fear, but they definitely hung around me and some of the other black guys quite a bit. The Africans, very poor. I keep saying Africans. I don't want to say Africans. I want to make sure I get it right. No disrespect to any Kenyan or anyone from that continent. I'm smart enough to know there is no country called Africa. Africa is a continent made up of about 53 independent nations. And so Kenya is one of those nations. And so I want to make sure I get that right. But they're very poor. And I found myself giving away a lot of the things I brought with me because simple things like, socks and old T-shirts, batteries, believe it or not, old batteries. They had a way where they could repurpose batteries, or I don't know how they recharged them and got more juice out of them, or whatever they did. But I made sure, to give away the things I had, because when I saw the conditions they were in, I was like, man, this stuff doesn't mean that much to me. I can get this stuff in the States again, So I ended up connecting very well with the Kenyans there, man, very well. I had a lot of good friends that I connected with. I even kept up with some of them when I left Africa, some of the military guys at the base there, and so the Kenyan base. And so interesting story in Africa. Man, just to think to come from the streets of Fort Worth to Kenya, Africa, out of nowhere. It's an amazing story. And while I was in Africa, we stayed in a very nice 4 or 5 star hotel on the coast of Kenya. And so what I would do every day, I worked night shift. So every day when I got off work in the morning, I ate breakfast. I wasn't ready to go to sleep. And it was always beautiful, the mornings, the tropical, monkeys everywhere. It was just the craziest thing. And I would always go down to the beach and sit there and I'd take a notepad from the room and I'd write down things that were coming to mind as I looked out at the water in Kenya. And at some point, I'd like to share those with y'all. In fact, I'd like to have a segment, a video where I'm actually going through everything I wrote and tell you why I wrote it. I think you'll find it very interesting. I still have the actual original papers where I sat down in Africa on the beach and wrote. I've had these papers since 1994 when I was there. And so I think it'll be something interesting to share, and I look forward to sharing that with y'all. But more to come on Africa. Great experience, again, you talk about coming from Riverside, Berry, Miller, Rosedale. You're coming from Como, Southside, Butler Housing Projects. You know what I'm saying? To Kenya, Africa. I mean, that's a long way from home, but the things that I've learned, I'm willing to share with everyone, which I think you'll find quite interesting. So, thank y'all again for chiming in with me. I look forward to some of the future videos, and in particular the video that I want to share my writings on my feelings that I had sitting on the coast of Kenya, first time in Africa, and I'd like to share those notes with y'all. Hey, y'all take care. Again, my name is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Today I'm Master Sergeant Brown, Air Force retiree, 22 years. So y'all take care. Continue to follow me, subscribe, or continue to hang with me. I guarantee you, I'm gonna keep pumping out good content, and it'll always improve over time. So trust me, it's gonna improve over time. I'm not new to being in front of a camera. I'm new to being behind the camera. So all that editing and all that stuff, man, I'm not a big fan of all that. But it's something that I have to learn, and so that's why you see the quality of the videos changing. And I've actually enlisted the help of a young lady from Bangladesh, believe it or not, Bangladesh, halfway around the world. Found her through a reference, and so she actually does some great work for me for branding and for editing. So, hey, y'all take care until next time. Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Fort Worth's finest. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.